Podcast show. We want to thank you for tuning in for another episode of the podcast. We're streaming live on Facebook Live. We're streaming live on our YouTube channel. We're also streaming live on LinkedIn. And today we've got a guest that's going to be joining us. He's going to be talking about his group and organization up in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. A good brother that I met through my assistant chief, Alice White. So we're excited to bring him on. But before we bring on our guest, I'm going to introduce who I am. I am one of the co-hosts of the show, Chief Green, and the dude sitting over there just goes by the name of Chief Swag. That's all we got to
Don't do
say.
it, bro. Don't talk about my shirt because I knew that's what was coming up next. But
Man. I mean, you know what? Here you go. You wearing this shirt, man, and you're supposed to be representing you in the law. That's what you're supposed to be representing, brother. See there?
that's your job. I pay you to wear that shirt.
You do? Okay. Well, you need to pay me. You need to
So
pay
I
me a
pay
whole
you
lot
to
more.
wear that shirt, man. So I don't have to do that, man. You don't. Hey, man, listen. You you don't see. Uh, Look here, man.
Hey, man.
Hey, listen,
Don't even try to explain it. Don't
listen.
even try to explain it.
Let me say this though. Let me say this. Hey, man. First of all, I want to thank you for picking me up from the airport the other day to visit that beautiful city, and then I want to give a shout out to the National Black Police Association, who's in Minneapolis right now, Minneapolis, St. Paul right now for a leadership uh, conference, leadership symposium. And so about 75 amazing African American law enforcement officers are there. And we got a chance to go out to the St. Paul Police Academy yesterday and meet their command staff. And man, the members of the association there in St. Paul and Minneapolis are doing an amazing thing. Shout out to Sawana Kirkland and members of that chapter. But hey, man, I really appreciate you, and I am excited about getting an opportunity to come back there.
Always, brother. Always. Well, hey, man. We're gonna before we bring our guest on. I've got a short video that I want to show everybody, and then we're gonna bring on our guest Trey Pollard, who is with Push for Peace.
To assist best we can.
It's no secret it's been a traumatic 10 months for Minnesota and the nation as tempers flare in the wake of another deadly encounter involving an unarmed black man and police.
Everybody has a right to protest. They do. What we want to prevent is what happened last year.
Protests leading to riots and looting.
Why y'all let them do the stores like this?
We gotta protect our own stuff and find a different way to express ourselves.
Try to avoid anybody trying to run in and do anything sneaky.
This is what's now forcing the city of Minneapolis' Office of Violence Prevention to reimagine the city's approach to helping communities heal after traumatic events like these.
We want to support community in thinking about de-escalation and conflict resolution if things come to that.
That's kind of what we all working for, you know?
Trahern Pollard is the founder of We Push for Peace.
We've been out here for years.
One of 7 local organizations hired by the city to intervene with community members during hostile situations.
So when we out there and we see young men and women that's out there emotionally driven, traumatized, angry, we try to help them channel those emotions.
For Pollard and his team, it's about bridging the divide and building relationships.
What our objective is to bridge the gap between law enforcement and our community. We know the community very well. We live here, we work here.
A lot of traffic due to what's going on right now.
So if it means losing sleep while risking their own lives for the sake of community, they're in it for the long haul.
And when you out here doing this kind of work and you trying to save your community, man, you don't think about all that.
Well, the groups will be out on the streets throughout the Chauvin trial and the protests that may be after the verdict is read. The city has set aside nearly $1 million to fund these groups.
Well, hey, Trey, man, we definitely want to thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast and talk to us about everything that you've been a part of in Minneapolis, man. And that clip right there just goes to show how deeply We Push for Peace is involved in what has happened before George Floyd and what continues to happen after George Floyd?
Well, first of all, both the Chiefs, man, I really appreciate you guys having me on the show, man. One of the things you heard me say in that clip was that, we want to be the facilities of bridging the gap between law enforcement and our community. You can't have community without that. That's our reality, man. We have the opportunity to connect with the families, to help them go through that process when they have lost a loved one or have been affected by gun violence. The fact that we have the opportunity to be there first is a blessing, because a lot of these young men and young women that's being hurt by all this gun violence, man, a lot of their families ain't prepared for that. So,
Yeah.
We help in a lot of ways, man. And then those relationships that you get an opportunity to build because of that, right?
Yeah.
Is why We Push for Peace has been an intricate part of Minneapolis, man, relating back years, like you stated before. When the unrest started, it was just me and probably about 3 or 4 guys, and they was like, man, they was like, we with you, man. Whatever we doing, man, we with you. And so, one of the things we did was we went over to the 3rd precinct, and now, which is your assistant chief, Alice.
Mhm.
She was a sergeant at the time with Minneapolis Police, and so when I walked up to, they had a little barricade, and so I walked up to the barricade, and she was standing in front because she was the commanding officer at the time, and I stood in front of her. I put my back towards her and I looked at the crowd. And so she was standing behind me, literally like this. And she said, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Making sure don't nothing happen to y'all." It almost blew her mind.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
after about 5 or 10 minutes, when she realized what we was actually doing, man, we did that for I think it was probably about a week and a half or something like that.
Mhm.
And then we started building that relationship with the Minneapolis Police Department, and it was headed by me and her. And yeah, go ahead, Chief.
Well, and what I was going to say was, Alice talked to us about that last Thursday when we had her on the podcast. Toward the end of it, the fact that out of nowhere, you and a small group of men stood in front of the police officers, in facing the protesters, saying, "Hey, this isn't going to happen." And Trey, I don't think throughout everything that has happened from all of the uprising that we've seen over the even going back to Ferguson, you never saw groups of black men stepping up and having that presence in front of the police, whether you agree or disagree with what took place.
Absolutely. And I had opportunity to have a microphone, and I started talking to the crowd, and I had a couple of pictures, and I held up the picture, and I said to Sergeant Allison at the time, I said, "You got some tape?" And she gave me some tape, and I put a picture of Derek Chauvin on the wall in front of the police department. It was like a building off to the side where the corridor was. And I said to the crowd, I said, I want to ask y'all a question. And I mind you, it's probably 100,000 plus people out there. It wasn't nothing but about 5 or 6 of us. And I said, "Do any of those officers over there look like him?" And they was like, "No, but I said, that you answered your own question, And so, to be honest with you, I don't know what made me take that train. To take that stance, but I knew it was the right thing to do, and that's why we chose to do it. Are we still together?
Oh, okay. I kind of cut myself off.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, Trey, man, that took a lot of courage, and thank you for doing that. This could be a model for cities throughout the nation. It's not a matter of if; it's just a matter of when there is something that could happen again that could cause an uprising in these cities. But I was driven around through the cities, St. Paul and Minneapolis, and went down the route of the riots. And there's a difference between a protest and a riot, and I think you would concur these were actually riots based on the damage, the looting and things. And it's just amazing how there's some businesses that haven't been rebuilt, some that have. Certain ones were touched, certain ones weren't, but it just seems when you talk to Minneapolis police, both African American and white, they speak highly of you, young man, and the things that you are doing. And I have to commend the mayor of Minneapolis for working with you on this this initiative.
Yeah, that's an understatement, man. One of the things that I say to my team members at all times is that it's just live your life through integrity, man. If you say you're gonna do something, do it. We've had the opportunity to build those relationships with the governor, with the acting chief, Amelia, and a lot of the inspectors in the Minneapolis Police Department. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I stated to them, we often name drop, and we say, these different communities and what have you. And I corrected him, and I said, we lost a sense of community quite some time ago, right? When we was growing up, Miss May would call Miss Rose and say, boy, you see that boy walking down the street and you got in trouble. Miss May gonna tell your ass before 4 other people do the same exact thing, right? And so that was what at that time, that's what we called a village, right? That village was raised in that community, and everybody pitched in. We lost that a long time ago. And the difference now is, even back then, a lot of the law enforcement officers was from them same communities. So they had relationships. Yeah. And so what you would normally, somebody do something, that police officer would take the time and talk to that young man or that young woman, or spend some time with them to change that, narrative. And when you kind of get away from those different things, and you get away from those different things, and then you allow different things to infiltrate that community. Now that community is just a neighborhood. That's all it is a neighborhood. Half the time, you don't even know who living next door to you, right? And so, we Push for Peace strives tremendously hard to bring these neighborhoods back to communities. It's oftentimes, man, we'll just go in a 1 mile radius, knocking on doors, and we'll just encourage them to have a block party. And we'll be there to be a part of that block party. We did that 4 or 5 times last year in the different communities in which, struggles with a lot of gun violence and things to that magnitude. And it was extraordinary. And we're doing the same thing this year, the same exact thing. We're encouraging them neighborhoods to, to gather together, and just have block parties, get out and meet your neighbors, know who living around you, that kind of thing, because those things are important. Yeah. And so, and the work that we've done has been noticed on many levels, man, and that's just truly a blessing, man.
Trey, I got to ask you, Trey. I'm sorry, Virgil. Trey, I got to ask you a question. Why you, man? Why you at that time? Why were you that person?
You know what I honestly, man, I'll be honest with both of my big brothers on this call, man. I'm a kid from the south side of Chicago that didn't always make the right choices and decisions. And I remember when I came home from prison, man, I was trying to find employment. And I couldn't get a job nowhere. That was confusing to me, because you had all these companies that was talking about how they would give people second chances. And I remember a tree trimming company gave me a call. and I was the happiest dude on the planet, right? I think I'm finna get me a job. I'm like, this is it, right? And then he alluded to my background. But that day, Chief, I remember when he told me he couldn't have me because of my background. I remember pulling over on the side of the road and I cried. And I prayed at the same time. Now, don't ask me why I prayed, but I did. And I remember asking the Lord, I told the Lord that if you give me a platform to change this narrative, I will be your most trusted servant. And I think when this unrest started, man, I think he tapped me on my shoulder to let me know this is your time. Mm-hmm. So when I started taking leadership in a lot of things that was going on in the city of Minneapolis at the time, people started noticing it, including one of my partners, which is Cub Foods. And so we started a partnership with Cub Foods that led to another partnership with Whole Foods, and now we push for pieces in 5 different states. And I got 300 plus men and women that work for the organization, all of which I've given a second chance, the same thing I asked for 30 years ago. So I personally feel like that. I personally feel like that's why me.
Yeah.
I think the Lord knew he was putting it in the right hands, and that's exactly what I've done. I've just continued to expand it and continue to be that narrative that I asked for 30 years ago.
So Trey, tell our listeners about how did you get involved with Push for Peace? Where did Push for Peace come from? What your organization has been doing over the years and continue to do?
When I started, honestly, to be honest with you, man, when I was thinking about what I would do is, let me just rephrase that. What I would do is I would go to grammar schools and things like that and just have conversations with kids. Mm-hmm. And I found myself really enjoying that. And so, a lot of people started wanting to hire me to do that, come speak at the colleges and stuff like that. So that's what the organization festered from. And we Push for Peace, man, because that's essentially what I'm doing, man. I'm really, really pushing wholeheartedly for peace amongst my brothers and sisters, man. That's how it started. And then, like I said, man, it kind of took a life of its own, man, throughout the unrest, man. And so all the things that I used to ask for and I was praying for when I was having, when I came home, like I said, almost 30 plus years ago now, is all the things that I do within We Push for Peace. So, a part of why, I feel like a lot of our young men is out here struggling is because there's no economic base for them. Some of them have felonies and they kind of feel like, they don't want to waste their time applying for jobs because they're going to continue to get turned down. Well, I'm the one that's encouraging them to do just that. And so in the organization, man, we do work readiness and we help, young men and women develop resumes, and we mock interview them and we get them prepared to be in the work field. We do a victims of gun violence because it's a lot of, brothers, sisters, aunties, cousins, fathers, grandmothers that don't have a platform to just be able to have a conversation about what they might be going through. So we have that. I also set a free driver's license program within the organization. So we've graduated 100 plus men and women through the program. We have a 100% success rate right now. And wow. I feel as though putting them things in place, man, you able to be a commercial driver's license, you get your commercial driver's license and, starting to pay with that is $38, $39 an hour. And it's also, it leads them to ownership because you can start an LLC and you get your own truck. Now you're a business owner.
Yeah.
So those are just a few of the things that we do here within the organization, man. But most importantly, like I stated before, man, we've had the pleasure of hiring so many men and women. And we not only operate in Minneapolis, but we also in Wisconsin, we also in Chicago, we also in Detroit. And that platform is just continuing to grow, which is a blessing.
Okay. T Swag, you got a question? Go ahead.
I do. So Trey, what I'm hearing you say, and I really like this, is that you're saying that this is sort of a reentry program reentry opportunity, which we don't have enough of those in the nation. The last city I worked from had a really good reentry program, but then when you do attempt to help a brother or sister or anyone who's been in jail or prison, still there are doors that are closed, that are shut. But what I'm hearing you say, young man, is that you don't take no for an answer. You are seems like you're empowering young men and women to keep fighting. And the other thing what I heard you say was, man, truck drivers, plumbers, HVAC are reputable occupations, and we need to see more of our kids look in that direction, because everybody's not meant to go to college. But the trades that you're talking about are reputable and allows you to also give back to the community and maybe help someone else.
100%, man. Like probably 6 or 7 of the men and women that has graduated out of the CDL program are now business owners. And so what do you think they doing? When they need drivers, they calling me. So when individuals is coming out of school, I already got an employment for them. So I often say this, man. I was just talking to a young man today. I was asking him, how do you think we get these young men to the table so we can just, start a conversation? And man, you ain't nothing you can do. It ain't nothing you can do. And I said, when I started with this partnership in these grocery stores where we do customer engagement, I said I started with 2 people working 12 to 6. I said I got 300 plus in 4 different states, and they working 24 hours a day. I said, so don't tell me what we can't do. You can do it, right? Just like I tell them, man, it's like it takes you a fraction of a second to get in trouble. Fraction of a second, just that one little lapse in choice and judgment. But it takes you a lifetime sometimes to get out of it, right? But it doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that you can't. And so, when I get a lot of those excuses being made, I tell them, man, I say you do realize that you looking at what that looks like in me, right? I'm a living example.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, it is about choice. Because when I came home and couldn't get a job, it wouldn't have took me nothing to pick up the phone and call one of my guys like, man, listen, Joe, I need to get back, and it would have happened immediately. But instead of picking up that phone, calling one of my guys to maybe get on my feet, I picked up the phone to figure out how I was going to become a referee or umpire to have an income to take care of myself and my family, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, it does boil down to choice. And you're right, Chief. No, it's not an option. It's not.
Yeah. Well, hey, Trey, another question. The one in that piece that we played before we came on the show, where the city has allocated a lot of funds towards organizations like yours and others. How did that come about? Because, a lot of cities are not taking that initiative to put resources within communities, especially communities of color, to help with everything that you guys are doing. So how did that come about, and how did you guys get involved with that?
When the Office of Violence Prevention started a pilot program to interveners, is what they was calling it. They started a pilot program. I was the first organization that they had called, and so I kind of sat down at the table with those guys, and they was talking about what they wanted to do. And so how it started was they reached out to me and they called me. They knew what I was out here in Minneapolis doing. They knew I was trying to protect businesses and what have you. And I just felt again like that was just the right thing to do. And so that's why we was doing it. And so that's how the partnership started with the city of Minneapolis, man. And so, with that partnership, you know, it allowed me to, one, hire more men and women.
Okay.
And again, the reason why we've been able to be so impactful is because the men and women that live in those different communities and those different silos, those are the ones that know all those young men that's out there standing at the gas stations or the liquor stores and what have you. And so, you know, when we go out there, you know, I told one of the little dude, I mean, I tell quite a few of them, you know, if I can show you, if I can show you something different, are you willing to do something different? And honestly, a lot of them say, yeah. And so we've been able to connect with those young men, and now those young men is not standing at that corner store no more. They're not standing at that liquor store no more. So that's how the partnership started, man. You know, the Office of Violence Prevention reached out to me and told me what they was talking about doing, and I wanted to be a part of it.
Okay. So another question, Troy. Let me get to a comment in our chat room because we got one of our listeners who follows the podcast, who's on every week with us, Robert Johnson. To a couple of his comments. One of them is that housing costs are big as well. Low income housing is very expensive to to be treated like the ghetto Huntington Place with bad conditions and high crime since the 90s. You know, and just being new to the area, Trey, I was on the I guess the north side of Minneapolis a couple days ago, having lunch at a place called Sammy's, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar where that's at. My assistant chief told me you're gonna be in the heart of North Minneapolis, right there on Broadway.
I know, it's like,
yeah. Yeah, and so I ended up meeting a well-known Black politician through the mayor of Golden Valley, and one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that he pointed out that over 80% of the people that live in that area, they're renting. They don't own their homes, and so you have a lot of people. A lot of these homes are Section 8, so you have a lot of these people. These guys come in and invest in these properties. They never really fix them up. They never really do anything to them, but they don't look like you and me. And so that was something that kind of stuck out to me, that over 80% of the people that live in North Minneapolis are not property owners.
And that's sad to say, but it's the truth. It is the truth.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the things that we do with the young men and women that come in the program is we also, along with this work readiness, is we teaching them financial well-being. Some of these young men and women don't even know nothing about bank accounts.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, it's definitely a progress, man. But, you know, on this journey, because we all know that life is a journey. It's not a marathon. You know, putting all those little things in place for those young men and women that we're working with. And I see a comment up here when he stated about like the Minnesota Department of Correction. Just FYI, Rob, I actually have a partnership with the Department of Corrections. So a lot of the young men and women that we work with come from them. They come from them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we are working with as many. I mean, I got 67 case files, all under the age of 21, anywhere from 15 to 20 years old. That is in our program, that has successfully completed our program, and I get referrals on a week-by-week basis. But as it pertains to the housing, man, that's one of the things that, you know, we talk about, right? It's home ownership.
Yeah.
And you know, and I know that they got a lot of programs that can help individuals, you know, be home buyers and things like that too. And so it's definitely an uphill battle, man. It's definitely an uphill battle, but you know, just making sure that the information is available for them and leading them in the right direction. I think that we can change that.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Trey, can I ask you how are you? What type of funding? Grants, donations, your own funds, or how's you funded?
So donations through donors that donate to We Push for Peace regularly, and then I've been, with my partnerships with Cub Foods and Whole Foods, a lot of the programs that I run within my organization is self-funded.
Okay.
What a lot of people don't know is, man, when you're sitting back sometimes waiting on these grants that you apply for, first of all, you got a 40% chance of getting it. And then secondly, when you do get it, you literally got to jump through Cheerios and hoops and hurdles and cracks and crevices. And it's just by the time you get it, it's a year later. So it's like, you know what? I thank God. That's one of the things I thank God about the most is that He allowed me to have a revenue stream, whereas that I don't have to wait on that stuff, man. And I can just keep the ball moving. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it from this perspective, Chief, the city of Minneapolis got $270 million from the government. And the crisis that America is dealing with is public safety. Public safety. And you put aside $1 million, I oftentimes want to ask, like, are you really trying to deal with public safety? Because that don't even make logical sense to me, right? It doesn't make logical sense to me.
Well, you know what, Trey, it's let me just say this, didn't mean to cut you off. I totally agree with you. This is a public health crisis. And, $1 million in a city with nearly 1 million people or over 1 million people, in cities that have seen, in a city that has seen a lot of civil unrest and a lot of tension between law enforcement and the African-American community, you're absolutely right. $1 million. Now, people will say that's a start. Yeah, it is a start. But when you get $270 million in funds, that is
that's not a lot of money.
That's not a lot of money, and what it does, it kind of makes. And I'm pretty sure, Trey, I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth, but I'm pretty sure there may have been a couple of times you may have said, "Man, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? You're talking about this being a public health crisis. You're talking about this being a conflict resolution, lack of conflict resolution, and you give me a million. I mean, what's coming on, man? What's going on? More money is put in other programs that really aren't necessary. I don't want to say those particular programs, but I get it, man. It's frustrating. It really is.
And truthfully, man, like I say, man, I think that in the rebuilding of these neighborhoods, turning them back to communities, I think that it has to be the bridge has to be, we have to close that gap between law enforcement and communities, which is why I work hand in hand with them. I respect them, a great deal. I know that their jobs is extremely tough. I think we got disconnected again.
No, we didn't get. No, we're not disconnected. I just kind of took us off and put you up on the big screen.
Yeah, and so I oftentimes, and I tell them that, I tell a lot of the law enforcement officers, man, how much I respect what they do, man, and what have you. But Mayor Jacob Fry, I got a personal relationship with him. I know him. I know his new baby. I know his wife. And I was sitting down having lunch with him one day, and I said to him, Mayor, let me ask you something, man. And he said, Trey, go right ahead. I said, do you know that the Humane Society of Minneapolis has a $7 million budget every year? And this is for animals.
Yeah.
I said, if we're going to have a real conversation, let's have a real conversation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how much are you really trying to combat this problem? And he looked at me like, and he just, I mean, honestly, he couldn't even, he really couldn't he didn't even have an answer for me. You know, his heart is in the right place. I know he wants to do the right thing. And I told him, like, sometimes, man, you just got to be a little bold, right? You got to be a little bold, you know? So a lot of these crimes that's happening in the low impoverished areas, man, you know, with all these little brothers and sisters that's out here, man, it's sad, man, because, you know, a lot of people think this work is easy, man. This ain't easy, man. No. I mean, last year we pushed for Peace assisted with 44 funerals.
Wow, 44?
We did. I'm gonna go back. We started with George Floyd. The day that George Floyd murdered, down the street from George Floyd, there was 3 other murders that don't nobody talk about. It wasn't even a conversation about it.
Yeah, no, it didn't make the news. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did his service. We did Dante Wright's service. We did Amir Locke's service. We did. I mean, it's just, you know, you know. So it's, you know, you have these different silos in which people work in, and so now we're talking about public safety, but everybody you got at the table is goddamn realtors. So how can they tell you anything about public safety? Yeah, that's another part of the problem. You got the wrong people at the table, right? So, you know, at the end of the day, man, like I say, man, I thank God that He has given me a platform to have a revenue stream, man. So it don't deter none that I do.
Yeah. Hey Trey, I think you have people maybe at the table that don't have the right hearts or intention. It's basically they're saying they want to help, but they're really coming to see what's in it for them. And you know, what can I make on this?
It's all about the money.
Yeah, they see these. You know, they find out the city's got, just like Trey said, $270 million from the government. Man, they're sitting there with their calculators out. Man, how much of this can I get? How much of this can I get? And it's short term. And I concur with what he said. A city I worked for a couple of years ago, $6 million for an animal welfare center.
Yeah,
$6 million for an animal welfare center. And not only that, during the design of the animal welfare center, it was a concern that animals would have to smell. They didn't want the animal welfare center to smell like an animal welfare center, so they spent another $300,000 or $400,000 on a ventilation system. Now you have people laying and sleeping in doorways of businesses and stuff. And so you would rather pay, and I get it. Both my puppies are pound puppies. I get it. But when you start putting $7-8 million in for animals, but you have a high homeless population or high population of mental illness, that's a problem. When you come and you see individuals who live in homes that have windows boarded up, no air, no heat, no running water, but you'll give $5, $6, $7 million for an animal welfare center. $7 million, like you said there, man, that's something wrong. Because then, to the community, that looks like you're dehumanizing people, and you have more value in animals, which I love my dogs, but I think that we have to determine what's a priority.
And you couldn't have said no better. Go ahead, Chief. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm just going to piggyback off of what Chief Humphrey just said. You know, the conversation that you had here in Minneapolis about, hey, do you realize how much you and the city is approving a budget for, your animal welfare, whatever the organization is called? Probably have no idea. But when you can put that much funds into the safety of animals, what do you think about the safety of people? You know, so that's where the priorities are not aligned. But it's good to see that, you know, groups like We Push for Peace and you and others are having those conversations with those policymakers who make the decision where those city dollars go.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though? I'm sorry, Trey. You know what's funny? Your average person who looks like us does not understand a city budget. you took the time to go down those line items in each one of those call centers, and you were able to bring that information back because he passed that budget. So there couldn't be any arguing that, oh, that's not true, Trey. It's right here. So those are the type of things I'm talking about. You have to know what you're talking about in order to make change, and you did your homework. The average person won't do that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's one of the things I think that I'm doing more than anything is I'm sharing information that we just, that we just won't take the time to research, right? And so, I was talking to a young man and I was like, do you pick your phone up for anything other than TikTok and Facebook and whatever else? What do you use that phone for? Because this information is at your fingertips. It really is, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, man, I'm cut from a different piece of cloth. Like, I'm not no finger pointing type of dude. I don't do none. I don't do the black one. I don't do none of that because I wasn't raised that way. I was raised with Southern grandparents on the south side of Chicago, and my grandfather, he started at the Ford Motor Plant, man, in 1941, making 19 cents an hour. And when he retired, he was the executive director of that same motor plant. And he said to me that the only person that's going to ever hinder your personal growth in life is you. Right. So here's the thing. We know some of the adversities that we face. We know some of our own challenges. Right. So if you know those, then find a way to combat them. Right. Be above that.
Yeah.
And since I've been home, I haven't had a traffic ticket. What? It relates back to the same thing that I said before, which was a choice. I just knew that it wasn't nothing going to make me do that again. Right. Nothing. Period. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Right. I tell a young man that come in here, like, man, you got 3 felonies and you 19. Like, no, I'm not finna lie to you. I'm not finna tell you anything is going to be easy. But what I will tell you is that if you keep your head down and you keep working hard, that things in life will work out for you. But like I said, once again, you looking at what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Trey, that's what a lot of these young guys and even young women don't think about is the fact that they do these things at, 18, 19 years old, 20. They find themselves sitting in prison. They get out, and all of a sudden, when they do think about trying to get a job, they can't get a job. They can't get Social Security card. They can't get a driver's license. And so it's almost kind of like, well, the system is setting me up to fail. But there again, the system isn't setting you up to fail. You're failing yourself because you had the opportunity to do the right thing.
And even then, one of the things we do is just that. We help young men get their ID, right? We help them get their ID, take them down to the government center, help them get their birth certificate. We take them to the Social Security office, let them get that's all it takes. Yeah. See, the thing is that they just don't want to do the work. That's essentially what it is they don't want to do the work. And, I'm going to say something, man. And I said this in a group that I was talking to, oftentimes we don't want to put our young brothers in prison, man. Our prisons is full of young black men and blah, 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 and so forth and so on. And a vast majority of that may be true. But as a person that was in prison, I'm going to tell you that was the best thing that could have happened for me. Because if it didn't, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Right. We like at the end of the day, and I tell anybody in America that. Right.
I've heard young men and women say that prison saved their lives.
Yeah. So it gave me an opportunity. Well, let me say this again. It gave the Lord the opportunity to move the way he really wanted to move with me. He wanted my undivided attention, and being in there, he got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I laugh about it because at the end of the day, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
And so, we do have a lot of challenges. It's not a debatable question as to if we are facing challenges. And yeah, we are. And to be honest with you, you know, I had the pleasure of going to Washington, D.C. about a month and a half ago, and I spoke on the Hill as it pertains to young men and women and mental health, right? And I'm not, you know, I'm in a much better place emotionally and mentally. I lost my own child to it. My son committed suicide 3 years ago. He was 20 years of age.
Wow.
And one of the things I said when I started speaking on the Hill, as I said, you know, ironic enough, I'm standing in front of a bunch of people that don't have a clue as to who I am, but here it is, y'all make all the choices and decisions on my life.
Wow.
And I said to them, I said, can y'all do me a favor? Can we stop using mental health as a punchline?
Mm-hmm.
Mental health has been plaguing the Black community for decades. I said, now that it's affecting other communities, now it's a crisis. Well, no, it's already been a crisis.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I get back, you know, I got a lot of requests to come speak and all. And I told them, I didn't go up there because I wanted to have a bigger platform to come talk across the country as it pertains to what I went through as a father and losing my own child. No, I went up there so that they can understand that, like, this crisis ain't just started. It already been one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing for opioids. Like, what you mean this is a crisis? Man, that's been plaguing our community for centuries.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Opioids is heroin. That's all it is, right? We know what it is.
Yeah.
And now it's a crisis. No. It's already been
A crisis. Yeah. Yeah.
It has always been, and you're right. Drugs has always been a crisis. Weapons have always been a crisis. You're absolutely right. But when it hits a certain group, demographics, then that's when it becomes a pandemic. And I'm glad you said that. I am so glad that you said that. Can I ask you I want to ask you another question.
Hey, Keith. Hey, let me keep, if I can, let me get to a couple of comments real quick. Robert, because Robert is blowing us up, man. He's on here. So Robert, we definitely thank you for being so active and engaging with us, man. So he's got a couple of comments. One of the comments is the cities used to have tons of opioid deans in the early 1900s. Sarah Banner, she's another loyal listener. She has talked about, it's about access sometimes, transportation structure, mental health support guidance. Let me see another comment here on Robert, where he said, if they expected to be dead or in prison because they put away the wrong people in high profile cases, many in Minnesota by the time they are 30, then 15 in middle age. T-Swag, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother. I just wanted to kind of get to a couple of comments.
No, you were recognizing. No, that's no problem, man. Trey, could you kind of tell us and the listeners, without giving any names or noticeable identifying factors, what's been one of your most challenging and cases? What's been one of that you really, and it seems like you are passionate about every person you deal with, but there has to be at least one that that sticks out and that you really have, maybe embrace this person a little bit more.
Oh man, it's one that stands out right away, man. We had a lot of shootings last year, and one of the shootings involved a child, and we walked every step of the way with that child's mother, and it was very challenging to say the least. But this young lady was uneducated, and she was struggling with a lot of things. And so I told her, I said, listen, on this journey that I want to walk with you, I said, I made sure she understood that it was just going, like, Like, I'm gonna be here to support you, but you gotta take this walk. And so she committed to it, and I've been with her every step of the way. So the first thing we did was we made sure that the service was extraordinary, and the organization sent her and her family on vacation. When she came back, she called me. Since then, she has now got a GED. She is now going into her second year of college, and she works for one of our partnering banks. And so she's young, and every time I see her, man, she just put a smile on my face, man, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
That's amazing right there. I knew you had one that just stuck out, and I wanted you to share that with the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Matter of fact, she called me today. She called me old man. I don't know why, but old man, what you doing? Old man, what you doing? And I'm like, man, why you keep calling me old man? So I'm like, no, I'm just getting off work and just calling to check on you. And she a real joy, man. She just, yeah.
So Trey, two comments. One is a question, one is a comment. So a week ago, Chief Humphrey, and to the listeners, Trey and his group, We Push for Peace, came out because of his relationship and partnership with Assistant Chief Alice White. Here in Golden Valley, there is a business that a young man lost his life at this place called Menards, workplace accident. The family was dealing with a lot of other things as well. Trey and his group came out to make sure that everything was peaceful. Because there had been some bad interaction between the family and the store and the people who on the corporate level. And so his guys came out, man, and they were there from 2:00 until everybody left the parking lot. There wasn't any problems, but this just goes to show you how he connects with the community and how the community connects with him. And so it was a great event. And I think one of the things that came out of that, Trey, from what Alice was telling me, is that you guys are maybe looking to do some kind of, back to school backpack drive or something to remember this young man. There's something that's going to be a legacy for a long time to come.
Yeah, man. Oftentimes, man, when you are dealing with, those kinds of emotions and things to that magnitude, if you get an opportunity to isolate that family and just have a real conversation with them, I think that you can make progress. And that's what I winded up doing. Yeah. And I said to her mom, I said, tell me a little bit about your son. And the thing that she stated to me was that her son was extraordinary. He would give you the shirt off his back. He cared about everybody. He was extremely peaceful. And so when it came to the Menard event, I walked over there and I said, I said, I'm gonna remind you of a conversation that me and you had. And then I shared with her what she shared with me.
Uh-huh.
If your son exemplified all these things and we out here memorializing for your son, how are you letting some of these young men over here try to smoke weed and drink?
Yeah, exactly.
She looked at me like this, Chief, and she walked over there and was like, y'all put that out and put that liquor away. We over here for my son. So I just gave it to her.
You got to keep it real. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is. And then what I said was, you know what? I know this time of year, it's very emotional. It's very hard to deal with. I said, because trust me, I deal with the same thing. And I said, but everything I do is in honor of my son, Xavier, that I lost. Like my center is Xavier's Employment and Training Center, right? And so I said, why don't we put something together and let's honor your son? And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, why don't we partner with Golden Valley Police? I said, I got support of the chief and assistant chief over there, and let's do a back to school drive. Let's
Yeah.
give away some backpacks and some school supplies in honor of your son. And that's not going to just be this year. We can do that for years to come.
Yeah.
And Chief will tell you, she fell to her knees. She cried. She was emotional. And so that's what I try to help a lot of these families do. It's like, we have to figure out a way to, for you to do something in honor of your child or your brother, or your cousin, or your mom, whatever it may be. And let's do that event every year at the same time. And then, you know what I mean? I told her, I think that it will help you tremendously. And on top of which, what I did notice more than anything is that the mom and two sisters, they need some help.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, they do.
they'll be coming in the center on Monday, man. I'm setting them up some therapy sessions that the organization is going to pay for.
Oh, good. And you know, Trey, we're coming up on the last few minutes of the podcast show, man, and it's been a great episode of having you on. One of the things I want to touch on, something that you mentioned about all of the resources or assistance that you get. Recently, here in Minneapolis, the first Black bank opened. Now, I'm gonna go here with this question, because if you've got the first minority-owned Black bank open, has that group reached out to Black organizations, say, how can we help you with programs or things that you're doing in the community?
No, not at all.
And that's a concern, you know, and Chief, you know, Swag, I think, you know, it's upon Black-owned businesses or Black leaders or even a bank to say, here is a group, or here are groups that are doing things in St. Paul or North Minneapolis, wherever. How can we help invest in those groups to make them successful? And so oftentimes, you know, just like with churches, you know, a lot of churches bring in a lot of money, but what are they doing with that money? How are they reinvesting that money in the community instead of, you know, putting it in the pockets of the church who's driving around in a Bentley?
I mean, honestly, man, you know, I oftentimes, both my Chief big brothers, man. Again, I'm delighted to be here, man. You know, I stay in my lane, man.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is probably about doing the Jamar Clark. Jamar Clark was a young man that got shot by police, got killed by Minneapolis police.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, you know, I was talking to some of the pastors. So I got in contact with, at the time, was the Minnesota State Baptist Convention president, Mr. Billy Russell. And I said, man, I want to come talk to you. And he said, absolutely, come on over to the church, we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, man, I said, you're the president, right? He said, yeah. I said, how many churches do you have in the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis and St. Paul? And he told me over 65, maybe 70. And I said, what happened to the days when the pastors would come to the barbecues and walk through the community and play softball and basketball? And I said, I think that that's something that's very needed. And he said, I couldn't agree with you more. And so, like I said, about 5 or 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet all the pastors, and we had a huge event. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, that is one of the things that our communities got away from that needs to be re-implemented alongside law enforcement is our spiritual leaders.
Yeah.
They should be out there. They should be out there in the trenches with us, period. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So Trey, one last question. I know Chief Pumphrey probably got another question, but what has been your how has Minneapolis police responded to the work that you're doing in the community? How is that partnership? Is there a partnership with the Minneapolis Police Department, especially with everything that has happened up here in the last couple of years?
I can name every last one of the inspectors in each area of the Twin Cities area. I know them personally. I got their phone numbers personally. As a matter of fact, about before Chief Arredondo retired, he gave him and the Minneapolis PD and the city of Minneapolis gave We Push for Peace a huge thank you award, man. They had a little ceremony for us. And I think that exemplifies exactly how a relationship is. Oftentimes, man, when we go to some of these shootings and things like that, it's pretty hostile, man. There's a lot of angry people out there. And the fact that we have relationships and can keep those, you know, and can keep that down and allow them to just actually do the job that they're you know, for them to do their job. Oftentimes when they see us, man, it's just like, you know, they'll tell you like, man, thank God y'all here, right? They'll tell you that. So, yeah, man. So we have an extraordinary relationship, just like I got with you. You know,
Well,
just
good.
like Golden Valley. You know, I know I can call you Chief. I know I can call Alice, and I know y'all gonna be there just like a lot of the other officers in Minneapolis. So yeah, we have a really good relationship, man.
You need to make him take you to lunch, man. Trey, and let him take you to lunch.
Oh, that's definitely gonna happen.
Hey, Chief, I'm thinking on a bigger scale, but we talk about that later.
hey, we're not talking about no drive-through, man. We talking about steakhouse. You know.
Well, man, I'm definitely gonna have to connect with Trey and Alice and some other people, man, so they can show me around, you know, Minneapolis. So I'm looking forward to it, man. So, and I tell you, Trey, man, it's been you know, it was an honor to meet you and to connect with you, man. And Keith, this brother is just like somebody that you've known for a long time. It was just that type of a greeting, and so I definitely thank you for you know, making me feel that I'm a part of this area.
Yeah, it wouldn't be no other way, Chief, man. Like I say, man, I often tell my guys a lie can't stand next to the truth, man. Living your purpose, man. And that's all I'm doing right now is living in my purpose, man. And like I said, man, when you rebuilding these neighborhoods to these communities, man, it takes all of us, man. It does. It takes all of us. And law enforcement is going to be a very intricate part of that. And so, you know, I said to my son the other day, man, until the Lord calls me home, man, I'm gonna continue keeping my head down, continue bridging these gaps, and continue to do the work that the Lord put on my heart, man.
Yeah, well, good. Hey, we got one last comment before we sign off. We got Veronica Ferguson, she agrees that pastors can reach more people than individual law enforcement officials. So we definitely thank Veronica for that comment. Trey, man, it's been great having you on. And we got to get you back on again, man. This won't be the last time we'll have Trey on with We Push for Peace, man. It's been great.
Hey, absolutely, Chief, man. I love you, brothers, man. I have the utmost respect and for you guys, man. And like I said, man, if y'all don't know nothing, We Push for Peace stand strong with y'all, man.
All right. Well, hey, let everybody know how they can find out more about We Push for Peace and how they can help the organization.
WePushForPeace.org. WePushForPeace.com. We own both of them. It talks about a lot of the programs and things to that magnitude. And I'm a personal person, man. So you know how they'll have you call a customer service line.
Yeah.
No, you call, you're going to talk to me.
Okay. All right. So are you guys on social media?
Yeah. So on Instagram, we have WePushForPeace.com. I mean, on Instagram, we have We Push for Peace. But honestly, Chief, all the other stuff, man. I don't even have time to monitor all that stuff, so I don't do it.
Okay.
Oftentimes I get an email or a text. Hey, are you guys doing an event today? Absolutely, man. Come join us. Bring your kids, bring your wife, your husband, whatever it may be, and come join us, man. Because you know we got an open door policy, man. Everybody welcome, man. Yeah. Everybody.
Good. All right. Well, Trey, man, it's been good having you on, man. We're definitely going to get you back on. We talk more about We Push for Peace, but we want to thank you for taking the time to come out and join us. We want to let everybody know if you miss any part of this podcast, you can definitely find the rebroadcast of this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, every podcast platform that you listen to. You're going to find You and the Law. So, Chief Swag, brother, it's been good. So, man, you got any final words to say?
Yeah, man. Hey, Trey, do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
Take this brother, man, somewhere he can buy some modern suits while he's there, man.
They finna go in. They finna go in on each other. Hey, I love you, brothers, man. You know I'm here, Chief, for you. Give me
All right, brother. All right. Well, hey, thank you, and we'll see you the next time. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in to You and the Law podcast. Tune in next Thursday for another episode of the podcast show. Thank you, and have a good night.